Hey, everybody, this is Harvey Sluggo Wasserman on the day that Leonard Peltier has been commuted. For God's sakes, his sentence, he's going to apparently be under house arrest, but he will be out of prison. Thank goodness. Thank you, Joe Biden. I will say that I was right in the middle of typing an angry letter into the Washington Post column about Leonard and Tatanka. God love you, Tatanka. You get next. Told me, well, Tatanka. Tell everybody you called up to tell me today. Oh, unmute. Got to unmute you. Hold on.
Go,
There we
go
go.
ahead,
What
Tatanka.
was your question, Harvey?
Tell everybody what you called to tell me today.
Well, I just called to say that Biden had given the compassionate release pardon to Leonard, and so he can live his life, with the tribe. It was very much along the lines of what you were urging, Harvey, but it's been the plea for some months now for this compassionate release, so that he can be with the tribe. And I've heard a few stories. I think maybe next week we'll have a clear story, but I know the meeting I've been doing other things for the last couple hours, but the meeting that was the regular meeting of indigenous peoples that had met with in the White House before about a month ago, and they had a conversation with him, and some things got stimulated out of that. And right after I got the call from a Lakota brother up in Pine Ridge, who said they're really, they're working on preparing for the worst, starting tomorrow with the raids, but we'll see how that goes. That and that Chase and all the folks are busy with that. We may be able to get some help to sort this out. I do know that right after I got that message, Danny Sheehan got a call from Jack Healy, Amnesty International, for him to tell the message. And I do know that there were people whispering in the Pope's ear to have another communication with Joe, but I don't know whether he decided a while ago and decided to do it the very last thing before he stepped out, or whether it was something that came down to the last minute. I honestly don't know yet, but there were a lot of forces in play, and the fact that this group and other groups did not give up and we kept the pressure on, all made a difference. It's like, 1,000 teaspoons putting the sand in the scale of justice, and it goes in faster than it leaks out, and then it tips all of a sudden. So at this point, I'm just going to say thank you to everybody who worked on this campaign, and then we may know the inside story, we may not. It might be more useful for people not to talk about who had what influence.
Well, thank you so much. Shauna, you actually had a meeting with Joe Biden where you whispered in his ear. Do you want to quickly tell us about that, Shauna? Where are you, Shauna?
I'm right here. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Just tell us. You had a word with Biden, right?
Yes, I was fortunate enough to be invited with my friend Susie Shannon to the White House on the 4th of July celebrations of, I think it was last year. And I was at the forefront when he walked down shaking people's hands. And he walked right up to me and shook my hand. And I simply said very nicely, "Thank you, Mr. It was a pleasure to meet you, Mr. President." I said, "May I ask you a question?" And he said, "Sure." And he leaned forward to listen to what I said. And I said, "Can you please free Leonard Peltier?" I said, "It's been far too long. He needs to go home and be with his family." And he said, "What was the name again?" And I said, "Leonard Peltier." I said, "He's been in prison too long. Send him home, please." And he said, "Oh, he says, well, we're working on that." And me thinking, oh, he's a politician. He probably just says that to everybody. But I put my piece out there. And then Susie's like, "No, he's working on it. He's going to do it." And I'm like, "I'll believe it when I see it." And then this morning, my jaw was on the ground. I was like, oh my God, did what I say have an impact? Did one voice actually make an impact? And no, I have to agree with what Tonka said, which is this is one teaspoon, and every person that has put their spoon into that tea has helped to get this man his freedom so that he can be with his family and not be in jail
Well,
or
thank
prison.
goodness, thank goodness. Mimi Gurman, do you want to give us a quick poem about all this? Oh, wait, you're muted. Sorry.
Unmute. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, indeed.
Cool. Okay, so I was going to read a different one today, but then Leonard got freed. So um, these are notes. It's sort of a poem, but these are notes about my feelings today about duality. So I titled it Notes on the Duality of This Day.
Cool.
Between the darkness, with its light always in tow, our country was born in the name of freedom, only by its firm attachment to slavery. A country whose riches were made available only through the existence of poverty. There is only a present because of its past, and a past inevitably tied to its present, where future comes in, has not yet been written. We ran away from a king only to elect a king, and because the wheel spins as it does, a dictator is inaugurated on the same day that we honor one of the greatest civil rights leaders of all time. Time is only the facade of seconds traveling at the speed of light. To know about time, ask Leonard Peltier. He knows. He is a master of time. The winter coyote searches for food for her young pups trying to survive in their hillside dens. She will find the vulnerable rabbit and kill it for her young. The rabbit is here for that. The coyote is here for that. These dualities that chain themselves to all things are great and are small. Peace creates war, and war creates peace. Is it true that here you can have one without the other? Duality is the freed hostage going home and a freed hostage dispossessed from her home. It is the space between sky and earth where all things are connected, and there are no release buttons. Until death do we part. But even after death we are life. Ask the stars about that. Ever the duality. This day will end into night, into day, into night, never disconnecting, never unifying, spinning into the infinity of chaos in all that exists and in all that does not exist.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Mimi.
Wow.
Wonderful. It is such a duality day. I mean, it's mind-boggling. There were also hostages freed in Israel, including 3 Jewish women who were released, young ones too, in their 20s and 30s. And it began on such a downer, and now Leonard's out. I wonder in the history of modern America if there's been any prisoner that as many people worked to get free as Leonard Peltier. I mean, it's just been a mind-boggling effort. Nicole, you asked about Mr. Littlejohn. I haven't heard a word about, and I don't know if anybody's seen anything about, or about our friend Steve Donziger, who's been trying to get help from the feds.
I reached out to Stephen, and I haven't heard back this morning to ask him if he'd received a pardon or commutation, and I haven't heard back from him yet. I'm certain I will.
Well, Vinny, let's compare. This is the second, thank God, the second freeing that we're celebrating after Julian Assange. Do you want to compare these two moments?
Yes, I think they're very, very similar in this regard. Leonard is out of prison, but he's under house arrest. So the cruelty of the United States government, once again, even in a gesture like this, is writ large. In the same way that Julian had to plead guilty for the unforgivable crime of journalism, or that Stephen Donziger had to stand up for the rights of lawyers to protect their clients. These are things that are etched in stone, but apparently they are ultimately in the long run of very little value. So I'm incredibly happy that Leonard is back with the Turtle Mountain tribe, back to his home, to be with his family, even if it was under house arrest. But I take great joy in that, but there is still Daniel Hale, reality winner, Stephen Donziger, and a long list of other people who have been, if you'll excuse the analogy, crucified on our behalf, who have suffered and been made to pay a price that is just beyond comparison. to stand up for our rights. And I think it's important that we keep in mind what the great Frederick Douglass said, and that is consider the level of oppression that any people are willing to endure. And that is the level of oppression to which they will be subjected. And at that time, I would remember words of an equally great man who was cut down in his youth. That's the great Fred Hampton. You have a right not to remain silent. So whether it's Biden, and look, the fact that we got Trump in the White House, we had Biden, talk to the people of Gaza, talk to the people of Ukraine, talk to the reporters that were killed in mass when he and his his cabinet were talking about press freedom is so important. It's just a different set of clowns sitting in the seats that were occupied previously. So I think we need to raise our voices very, very loudly. It'll be easier for Democrats now that Joe Biden is not in the White House to bitch and complain, which they should have been doing for the last 4 years. I could go on, but I'll leave it at that. But when I got the news first thing this morning, I was elated. I was elated because I didn't think it would happen. In the same way I thought Julian would die in prison, I thought Leonard would die in prison. So I'm very happy he's back at home with his tribe and his family and his people.
Well, we want to thank you, Vinnie. You worked so hard on Julian. You really paved the way for Leonard. And, we get to, by osmosis or whatever, enjoy the incredible sensations he must feel after 50 years being reunited with his family. He's going to be able to take a bath. He's going to be able to do a sweat. He'll watch the Super Bowl. I mean, it's just that much of us, we were feeling in a very real sense his horror, his torture, and now we can feel his elation. As I'm sure, I just think of Julian Assange on a beach with his family, and as we say, I kvel, and the same with Leonard now. Let's hope his release goes smoothly and that all happens as it should. Nicole Ong, did you want to say something? Nicole, you still have a hand?
Oh, no, I got my answer. So, I
Yes.
just want to know if somebody had more in news. I checked those two yesterday, and one of them says that it's in the process, the Little John, and the other person, Danziger, I looked at, Danziger, it was something in 2021. They said they closed the thing, so I don't know, but now,
All right.
I had a Facebook, I had the Facebook account for President Biden, and it has a phone number that you can text to, whoever is receiving on his behalf. And I text him again last night asking for the for the pardon for Mr. Danziger last night at 1 a.m. in the morning.
Well, good. I mean, I had literally just sent to the Washington Post an angry letter, demanding that Biden free Leonard, and when TATANKA called me and gave me the great news. So, anyway, we're going to keep
Hey, Harvey, I'd like to make you aware of one thing before TATANKA speaks here, and that is a very dear comrade of mine. Gravalia Wells is on this call, and she has been fighting for Leonard for more than a decade. And I mean, she is an incredible person. I invited her to be in this meeting, and she could probably speak very intelligently about the situation here because she's lived, breathed, and slept on this issue through Amnesty International and her undying commitment.
Absolutely. We also want to think what we think of it. Last week we had the great Rose Styron on with Alex Matheson. And, it was great to have them and to continue on with us. I want to say hi to Kat Kramer, just joined us here in LA. Dr. Ruth is with us. Marcy Bielma from the KPFK board. We're thrilled to have you on with us. I'm really glad to see you, and please speak up. Dennis Bernstein from Flashpoints. Dennis, raise your hand if you want to say something. It'll be great. Steve Spitz, and so on. Marcy Bielma. It's good to see your photo. I always wonder what people look like from those board meetings. So you're welcome. And of course, raise your hand, please, if you want to say something. We'd be glad to have you on. John Steiner, hi there with you and Margot. This is the most celebratory call we've had. It happens as Donald Trump becomes, I can't say it. I won't say it. But anyway, it's as so beautifully put by Mimi. It's a yin yang day. Let's put it that way. But let's enjoy whichever part is the bright spot. Tatanka, Mila, raise your hands. Anybody else who wants to speak, please go ahead, Tatanka.
Well, I'm looking forward to hear what other people have to say. I felt like Vinnie did when I heard it was elation, and the quote that you did, Vinnie, about speaking up is really important. So remembering today the feeling we have and continuing to not put ourselves in a kind of house arrest mentality, to move through the fear, right? To keep moving into the storm like the buffalo does, and to, over the long haul, to understand that this will reveal, I just took a quick look at the reportage, and of course you had the FBI weigh in on the old story. So as everything gets unmasked, it may anger them even more. There may be certain targets that come up that because of this victory on our behalf. But the forces, they don't need people to be the executioner. They just need people to be observers, bystanders, non-participants, non-actors. They just need us to keep our silence. They just need us to keep ourselves in a kind of house arrest, because the old saying, we all live on the reservation now. Some ways we all live in a kind of house arrest now because we feel so impotent to do things on such a scale. But remember, it is the people's history of the United States that's going to determine our country and the world, as we can participate in our small way with other people of the world. And so to continue for the long haul, to continue to take the elation that we felt in the morning to fuel us, to continue to not put ourselves in a victim position. The superheroes that we need to deal with the super problems are those higher self, those ancestors within us. We need to act without the fear, into the storm, be the calm in the storm for others around us, and continue on this path. So I saw the image I saw when I felt that elation, is I felt the confidence of the FBI keeping the secrets about what led up to Leonard Peltier being there just go down a bit. Now they'll fight to get back up, but it's sort of punctured their invisibility and their ability to not be seen and not be held accountable. So let's just remember that it's our solidarity that really makes a difference.
And one thing we need to remember about house arrest for Leonard is, for the next God knows how long he lives, he will never be in a house that's not filled with love. He will never be in a house that he doesn't want to be in. And last night, I just got to say, I was in a house with 8 grandchildren. So, I'm sure that every house Leonard is in from now on will be filled with 8 or more grandchildren, great-grandchildren, whatever. So, I mean,
Harvey, the last thing I want to say that's so wonderful to hear is I do want to hear, if people are willing, from the ones you mentioned, from your friend, Vinnie, if she feels like it, Marcy, if she feels like it, Gavila, good to see you. Just to hear from as many people as possible.
Yes, please. This is the time to just vent your joy, and it so changes the vibe of the other events that we've been looking at. Really, the whole day is transformed. Thank God. And this, of course, we remember Martin Luther King, and I did meet Martin Luther King in Mississippi. He was just momentarily, for a nanosecond, but he was a wonderful guy. And to this day, I was 20 years old. So to this day, I've not gotten over the fact that I was taller than Martin Luther King. I mean, I meet this wonderful, magnificent human being, and I say, how can I be taller than you? It doesn't make sense, but I still haven't gotten over it. So there you go. Oh, to be 20 again. Maya Reason, Maya, please. And then Mike, Gavrila, Lydia, come on.
So, thank you, Harvey. You know, I just wanted to say that, oh, it's such a wonderful day today. It's such a good day. I invited my dear friend Lydia Ponce from the American Indian Movement, who also has her hand raised, and I'm so delighted that she can be here with us. And we haven't heard from Gavrila Wells yet, so I'm going to defer to others. I just wanted to let you know that Lydia Ponce is here, and I'm looking forward to hearing from her. She's really put so much work and effort, along with so many people, into this day that we're celebrating.
Fantastic. Well, in retrospect, I will say maybe I got to hand it to Joe for his timing here. Put us all through hell, but it sure changed January 20th, 2025. That's for sure. Mike, and then Gavrila. And then
Yeah, I
Lydia
just wanted,
Daniela?
I
Go ahead,
wanted to
Mike.
quickly point out that um, long after his death, Marcus Garvey has been pardoned, and Marcus Garvey came along at a moment, after slavery had ended, but by law, but in fact, there was still sharecropping and massive lynching and terrorism against people of color. And Marcus Garvey came around, and if any one person could uplift millions of people, he did that
He did, yeah.
by his example. And for some reason, I know the reason, he's been erased from history. And we talk about a lot of different historical figures who had a tremendous positive impact on the world, but his name is hardly ever mentioned. So I just wanted to call our attention to a true hero, a champion, and a superstar well before his time, who made a tremendous change in the world, Marcus Garvey.
Thank you. Very, very appropriate, Michael. Thank you so much. Okay, Gavrila, please. Again, folks, raise your hands.
Yeah,
Have it out.
I'm going to actually ask for Lydia to speak before me because I feel that would feel better for me and probably for Lydia too. So,
Lydia, go for it, please. Lydia Ponce, wonderful to see you.
My dogs were howling because I was crying so hard. It's good to be with relatives who understand and know the story and how impactful and crazy today is. I knew at the time from AIM Governing Council, who's only on Facebook, they're not on Instagram yet. You can find them, Governing Council, AIM, AIM, out of Minneapolis, when he was on the helicopter and heading towards Fargo. And, we're getting blow by blow messages, but, I was asked not to share those things, so I didn't. But the incredible thing is,
wait. Are you saying that he's out and he's been on a helicopter? And
he was in a helicopter almost 4 hours ago. And
oh my God,
Fargo.
fantastic.
So yeah, so that's from Minneapolis AIM, the leading chapter and the governing council, the national governing council that sanctions and unsanctions chapters, AIM chapters. Is Frank Paro, he recently passed, and I don't know who stepped in his place, but we have a female director now currently, Lisa Bellinger, and you can find her on all the social media stuff. They put out a press release, and I put it on the text thread for y'all to see and hear. But the one to really follow and know that also is boots on the ground is Indian Collective, NDN. N like Nancy, D like David, and Collective. They had a lot to do with working with the legal entities, the council, the committee for Leonard, and it has been a crazy ride because I sent the information to Tom Morello, and we're going back and forth. And by tonight, I'm going to ask him to put a celebration, freedom celebration, at least for the people, you know, to celebrate. This is better than being in prison, per Leonard. It's his voice that he had recorded a short message for the people. And I put it on that text thread. I don't know how to transfer it to everyone here on this call, but you can hear him say that home confinement is better than what he's doing now. I don't know, but I have a very good feeling that tomorrow when the sun rises, at, you know, the time difference being central time, mountain time, that they're gonna have sweat, they're gonna have ceremony. I'm just, that is having him feel the grass under his feet, you know. And I would be remiss and I would be a horrible relative if I didn't say, I am calling in and visiting with you relatives on the unceded territory, the lands of the Tongva people, west here, infamously known as Venice, known to the Tongva people, the Gabrielenos and all their relatives, as Sagna. So with that, I'm going to say I can post everything and anything that I can provide on that text thread, because I don't have everyone's emails, and maybe somebody else can pick up the bid and forward the information. We're thinking of having a sunset ceremony prayer, you know, gathering here at the Venice Pier tomorrow night. So we'll see.
Wow.
I'll let you know, okay? So that way we can hold space for one another and really put some additional prayers for his health, right? But thank you, Mila, for inviting me, and thank you everyone for being patient with me. I want to teach you one thing, if I may. You don't have to call him the president. You can also call that dude the resident of the White House. And because I'm twice colonized and I'm learning my indigenous language from YouTube and a couple of elders, I'm going to say something in Spanish and you can say it, and I'll put it in the chat. Pelos de elote. Pelos de elote, which means corn silk hairs. Just saying, you don't, and then if you want to say his name, you can say the T is silent. Many blessings.
Well, you know, Timothy Snyder refers to him now as Mump because of Elon Musk, which I think is actually very cool. There are a few terms I could use in Yiddish to describe him, but even I think they wouldn't pass the censorship. Lydia, stay with us, please. That's wonderful. I mean, one of the great things, I'm sorry to go on, but one of the great things about being an activist is when you win, you get such lasting, you know, like we can all now think of Leonard, you know, being with his kids and taking a sweat and having a decent meal, and after 50 years and feel it all dissolving. I mean, it's an incredible luxury. There's a great quote from A.J. Muste. Muste was a great nonviolent activist and guru. He was a fabulous guy. And they asked him what it was like to be an activist all your life. And he said, well, the pay's no good, but the work is steady. So, but in this case, the pay is the greatest. What possible job, what possible pay could ever match the feeling of knowing that this guy now is free and that we all had a hand in it? I mean, there's nothing greater that you could achieve in life than something like that, at least in my world. Gavrila, go ahead, please. And then Mickey Leader and Mark Imlay.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Did you say Daniela?
Oh, did I miss Daniela? Oh, Daniela, I missed Daniela. Can we come to you and then from then?
Yeah,
go ahead.
of course.
Go ahead.
Told me to unmute, and then I heard a name that sounded like mine, but I wasn't sure. Anyway,
All good. All good. Great to hear from you. Go ahead.
this is such a strange day for me. I was the first journalist to integrate Selma television, WSLA TV, in 1960, 3 years before King and Lewis marched over the Edmund Pennant Bridge. And I was abused and arrested and by the Ku Klux Klan deputy sheriff of Montgomery County. I was 20 years old, And this was such a day of mourning for me. Martin Luther King Day oddly on the same ironic day that Drumpf, which was his original name,
Right.
president of the White House, was inaugurated. And yet I was so pleased that Leonard Peltier was freed at last. I've been writing letters since I was young to get him freed. And that was beautiful and wonderful. And I think Biden waited to the last minute so Trump couldn't make a lot about it in the media, because he'll be so confused and happy with his own dictatorship that he won't even bother to notice, maybe. So, and I think that's why he freed, pardon the others at the last minute as well, not to give Trump too much time, the resident of the White House, too much time to talk about it. But I just wanted to introduce myself because most of you don't know me, and say hello to Mimi, fellow poet. I've been an American Book Award winning poet with many books of poetry, but mostly social justice books like On Prejudice, A Global Perspective, and Women on War and Survival in the Nuclear Age, which got a nice review from Carl Sagan years ago. And it's still in print, my women's studies classic, for 45 years. Not to brag, but just so to say hello as to what my ethos is and what my experience is in being here among you. I've been working hard on climate justice mostly lately. So I'm frightened of the fact that Elon Musk just welcomed what he called the king back to X, and we should all go over to Blue Sky, which is started by a guy who's anti-Trump, and we should all boycott X, of course. But I'm just really sad that this man with all this money is thinking about going to barren Mars, and these oligarchs could be helping us to save Mother Earth, plush Mother Earth, instead of using all their money and power for Mars, a barren planet. So
I personally am happy to see Elon Musk go to Mars, but that's a whole other story. Thank you. Very nice to meet you.
Guy there, very young. And I think the reason he wants to escape to Mars is he had the most evil, horrible father who beat him and his mother. He's a very sick billionaire, that man. He wants to really escape from Earth, where his evil father tried to kill his mother and beat him when he was a boy. So
Right.
he's sick.
Well, anybody who really wants to understand the guy, the orange one, should really see this movie, The Apprentice. It's devastating. And I hope to God it wins the Academy Award. It will be a fabulous thing. Anybody with any pull with the Academy, we want The Apprentice to win the Academy Award. It's a mind-boggling piece of work. Explains a lot. Thank you. Very nice to meet you, Daniela. Keep coming and joining us every week. Gavrila, please. Now, and then Mickey, Mark, and Dennis.
I'm going to be very quick because
You don't have to be. We're here. We got time for you.
Careful what you say. I've got the gift of the gab. I just want to say I've too have been crying tears of joy. Got phone calls and all kinds of texts coming in right as it was happening. And I agree he did it at the last minute, because not only Orange Creature, that's what I call him, but and that's not an amnesty. I'm here as Gavrila, not an amnesty member. Free range here. Yeah, and I'm calling in from the unceded ancestral lands of Ramaytush Ohlone peoples. Just wanted to say that. Everything Lydia said, so helpful. I didn't know that he was on his way there. I see there's mixed messages because the press release that Biden put out said February 18th. But I put in a video link to the Indian Collective's Facebook press release that was in person, and they spoke of him going home very soon. So it's great to hear this information, and just great to be in community with everybody. I was a clickivist and an activist before, I did go to jail with my mom for anti-nuclear stuff way back when. And my mom, I took care of her with when she had dementia, and she was an longtime amnesty member. And when she passed, I decided to join a local chapter, much because Amnesty was featuring Leonard for their right for rights. So Leonard brought me into being an actual physical member of a group and not just an online member of Amnesty. And I just want to say that I'm so grateful to Amnesty International
Yes.
for lifting his case and making it a priority campaign. We did a couple great celebrations, but specifically his 79th birthday, where we partnered with Indian Collective, and I'm just in awe of all the amazing work that so many people have been doing for decades. And my mom brought my attention to Leonard's case years ago too, and I've always been aware of him, but just being in community with people physically is huge, and doing this every day, simple acts of letter writing and every aspect of everything that we can possibly do, events, everything we can do. And I am just, grateful that we are focused on Leonard on this day and on Martin Luther King Jr.
Right.
And that we are celebrating rather than complaining, and giving all the airtime and all the attention to the orange thing. So grateful to all of you. I am so grateful too that Leonard can finally get medical care that he needs, and that he can be with his loved ones and have the food of his choice and just heal and nourish. So love to you all, grateful to you all. I have no other words of wisdom other than huge gratitude, and I've been crying nonstop all day, just like all of us.
Well, let's all wish Leonard a great big bowl of miso soup, for
He
God's
doesn't
sake.
want that. I think he wants really like meaty, unfortunately. So they're gonna have to, yeah.
Well, they got to watch his ability to digest stuff, but that's the Jewish mother here coming out. So
I hear you. I'd be feeding him the shit he wouldn't want the shit I'd be feeding him. So good
yeah,
thing
right.
about his
Hey,
relative.
Leonard, eat like a mensch. Okay. Thank you. Mickey Leader, go ahead, please. Mickey.
Hi, nice to join you. I think it's the first time I've been able to register. I knew about you at least a month, but I didn't get the notifications until this week. So thank you so much. I'm in New York, and like all of you, I'm sure, I'm completely depressed about what's facing us for the next 4 years. But one of the things I'm becoming is I'm becoming obsessed with going on every podcast and listening to all this stuff that I had never known about. The education system in our country is bereft, giving us a backgrounds. I had no idea. I'm not stupid, but I had no idea that this has been in the works for 50, 60, 70 years. I started being politically active at 13, being involved with, Youth for Kennedy. And I've been a Democratic committee person in my town for 50 years, and they do nothing. They can't even get I call myself an old fart. I'm 78. My husband is 79. You couldn't get senior citizens to get off their couches and go vote. New York is a Democratic state. It doesn't matter. Holy mackerel. I didn't even realize why gerrymandering was so dangerous. I didn't realize why people who are state assembly and state senate were so critical. And I served for almost 5 years as a school board member in the school district. I was the only woman on it, and so in fact, there can't be that few people like myself who are so ignorant about politics and the conniving and the gross mismanagement of it by both parties, and it's making me crazy. And the woman who was on Sunday's 4 o'clock call? She's a brilliant woman. The one from the millionaires, the Democratic millionaires. I forgot what it was called.
There was Erica
But
Payne.
she is a
from
brilliant woman, and basically her
Okay.
right.
Go
Right.
ahead, Mickey.
Well, it was scary because she's saying everybody was pointing fingers why Kamala Harris lost and why Biden was still allowed, and who was making all these decisions. They're a bunch of older people and millionaires in our Democratic Party also. But right in my own home community, my husband would ask me when I was younger and not immobile, and I would go to meetings. Well, what did they do? I said nothing. They did absolutely nothing, and
Well,
everything is in the hands. It's local politics, and
okay.
I just got myself in trouble because I refused to give them my proxy because they told me who I should vote for, and I got crazy. So my question is, I think it's wonderful that we're advocating for all the people in our country, whether they be indigenous people or whether they be Hispanic country people or whether
Okay.
they be Black people. But I want to know what she had to say, and what a podcast
Okay.
I listened to yesterday said, who are we going to get to run?
Oh, we'll
Where
be
are we
fine. We'll
getting
get
these people?
plenty of
Great
people to
question,
run.
Mickey. Great
Very, very
question.
good. And we got some people ready to run. Mickey, it's wonderful to hear from you. Thank you. And you're younger than I am, so keep up. Okay, please. Mark Imlay, please. Mark Imlay. Mickey, keep up. Thank you so much. Mark, and then Dennis, Winston, Mimi, Ruth. Keep on. Go ahead, Mark.
Does anyone want to see me?
Yeah, no, it's up to you.
Video's not working.
There you go.
Yeah,
You're the
dude, you are
local guy.
picking stuff off of your mouth, and what that's not a good look. So you can keep your hands out of your mouth for a
There you
little
go.
while. That'd
There
be
you go.
great.
Okay,
Thanks,
Mark.
brother.
Let's do
Love
it.
it.
Guess
Let's do
what?
it.
Today, it's not just Martin Luther King's birthday, it is Martin Luther Day of celebration. He was one of the founders of the women's rights movement several centuries ago.
Right, right.
Guess what he did? He said all women in a church have the right to do what the men do. They can be the priest, the director,
Right.
everything, and that's what the Lutheran Church was.
Well, the history of Martin Luther, and one of the major reasons he broke with the Catholic Church is because he wanted to get married. And he wound up, the woman he married was very formidable. They had like 6 kids. But at the time he did that, priests were expected to be celibate, and he didn't want to do that. And the only reason priests were made celibate, which was 1,000 years after Jesus, was because the church was concerned about its property. So thank you for that, Mark. Is there anything else you wanted to jump in? And we'll go to Dennis. Okay, thank you, Mark, for that. If you want to come back and say more, we appreciate it. Dennis Bernstein, the legendary host of KPFA's Flashpoint. I'm trying to unmute you here, Dennis. What's going on? Dennis, I have had this.
Dennis, can you unmute yourself? Can't hear you yet, brother. Okay, he's a co-host, so he can unmute himself as soon as he figures out the technology.
No.
No, he's having a little trouble.
Try
Yeah,
again here.
Yeah, we'll come back to Dennis.
All right.
Dennis Bernstein,
We'll come
years
back.
we were on WBAI together, if that's the same.
I think I got.
Oh, there you are. Oh, you were there for a second. You were there for a nanosecond. What happened?
Unmuting.
There you go.
All right, go
Great
ahead,
job,
Dennis.
Dennis.
Go ahead, Dennis. Great.
Hallelujah.
Go ahead.
Hello, Daniela. It's been a few years. Nice to hear your voice and see that you are still doing all the work you're doing. Daniela Giuseppe, who you all just had on, who's wonderful.
Yes, it was so great to see you again, Dennis.
Yeah.
All these
A long
years.
time. A long time.
Be on the radio together all the time in the old days.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you're on together
Great.
again.
All right.
New day.
Well, first of all, Leonard has always been free, but now we'll be able to pray with him. He'll be with us, and we're happy about this. This is monstrous and huge and wonderful that he's going to be out of that jail. And want to say that tomorrow on Flashpoints, we're going to have Bill Means, co-founder of the International American Indian Movement and co-founder of the International Indian Treaty Council, along with Bill Means' counselor, Len Foster. So, and both of those guys are very powerful forces, and you might want to tune in.
Dennis, how do people tune in to get your show outside of the Bay Area?
KPFA.org, flashpoints.net. It's
Okay.
and it's widely distributed as a podcast.
Good. Okay.
And I want to say, having worked to free Leonard Peltier and with the Indigenous movement, I'm proud to say my name. I've been given the Indigenous name Burn Stick, holding the light up to truth. I'm very proud of that. And I don't know, it leaves me with hope on a day that it's very tough to have hope. And I have to say, what I was going to say is that working with the Indigenous community, you learn that they are very close, and one of the brothers in the world, the brothers and the sisters in the world are the Palestinians, and that Indigenous communities are celebrating for Leonard Peltier, and I'm sure he's celebrating. He's going to enjoy. I hope he's already out of that cell. And we're not going to forget that there's a genocide in motion and the weapons shipments continue. Can never forget that. This is a part of the struggle to free Leonard Peltier, and I'm glad they have let him out of that cell. Thanks, Harv.
Thank you, Dennis. Very good, and we appreciate it. Leonard, we had a report that Leonard actually has been out for a while, that he's been in a helicopter headed to Fargo, North. I just hope he dressed warm.
Yeah.
Have 100 people with us.
Good.
Yeah. Leonard, put on your boots, for God's sake. Wear a hat, please. Okay, Winston Apple, Mimi, Ruth Strauss, and Hetty. Please. Winston? Thank you, Dennis, for that.
You're welcome.
Okay, Winston. There you go, Winston. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to say I had a survival plan in place before November 5th that involved two things. One was, if it went the way it went, I was going to stop watching the news for the foreseeable future. And so I just learned about Leonard when I tuned into this, and it's kind of overwhelming.
Wow.
I'm part Irish, part German, and part Choctaw, and sometimes I just hate myself. But the other part of the survival plan was on November 6th, I mailed 2 initiative petitions into the Secretary of State's office in Missouri. I posted a little thing about them in the chat a few minutes ago. 2 elegantly simple yet incredibly powerful reforms that will make Missouri and would make America or any other state a perfect democracy. And I take those definitions from John Locke and John Adams. The first one is perfect democracy amendments. That simply, like in Missouri, it would simply allow people to sign veto referendums and initiative petitions electronically online. They've been doing that in the European Union since 2011. I think it's time we caught up. In the states that don't already have initiatives in the referendum or the federal government, it would also, of course, extend provisions for referendums and initiatives. The second proposal is a little bit more outside the box of politics as usual. I call it proxies for citizens. It's an idea that came to me. I served on the Democratic National Committee for 4 years, and that was the first time I ever used proxies myself. Of course, corporations use them, and even the Republicans. I almost always remember to mute my phone.
Okay, go ahead.
But the idea is very simple. Everyone who's eligible to vote in Missouri will be able to submit a proxy, assign a proxy to any one member of the Missouri House and any one member of the Missouri Senate. And then those senators and representatives get a number of votes on everything they vote on, equal to the number of proxies they've been assigned, plus one for themselves.
That's good. We like that.
The implications of that are amazing when you start peeling back the layers of what that would do. It would shift power not only to the people, but to the members of the House and the Senate who do the best job of representing the will of the people instead of the will of the people with lots of money. And I mean, I think for myself, if we could get this done in Congress, and it would take a constitutional amendment to extend it to the Senate at the US level, because they have the 1 vote per senator written in the Constitution and equal suffrage for states. But if we had such a system in place right now, even though Republicans hold the majority of the seats, I feel pretty confident Democrats would hold a solid majority of the proxies.
Okay, very good. Well, of course, right now our system is $1, 1 vote.
Well, yeah.
That's why Elon Musk has so many votes. But
He got a lot of votes.
Thank you, Winston. Thank you for
All
that.
right. Well, appreciate the opportunity to share. And this is an amazing group. And the link to the governmentbythepeople.org website is in the chat. If anyone would like to read more about those or get involved in help in any way.
Thank you. So somebody asked how long we're going to go. We're going to go today up to 2 hours anyway, as long as people want to talk. We had a whole agenda, but obviously this is it's. I once heard from Jesse Jackson, who's given a great speech. He says it's incredibly important to celebrate your victories, and this is about as big a victory as we can get. It changes the whole nature of the coming whatever. And so here we are. Mimi, back to you. Thank you for your wonderful poem. I do want to have your philosophy prof on with us next week. So if you'll invite him, that'd be great. Mimi, go ahead.
So it has to do, what I wanted to say, Harv, has a lot to do with what you just said. Like,
okay.
I'm 61 and more or less just 61. And there were a couple of notable things that happened in my life, and only a few notable things. Most of them were terrible. The first was I was born the next day JFK got assassinated. That's how my life began. And then followed by many assassinations after that, the last of which for me was the most powerful was John Lennon's. As a peace worker, that was huge for me. But today, I think, and I've been trying to scour the events of my life and the news of life during my lifetime, and I think that today is the most powerful and wonderful thing that has ever happened, the release of Leonard.
It's a big deal.
It is such a big deal. And that all of us are feeling this and crying about it and wanting to celebrate is everything. I do feel that, especially, I feel this across the board, but especially for white folks like myself, we need to hold back on spewing our own judgment around how Leonard might feel about this, what the words are that he might use. And Lydia kind of said something about this too. He will tell us. Right. He will tell us in a direction as well where to be around all of this. This was about his life and about the injustice that happened, not just to him, but because it happened to him, to an entire nation of people. And I feel really strongly about this, that we need to temper our desire to pretend that we know shit when we don't know shit. So that's where I'm at. I wanted to share that, to just, bring that into play, that we remember that only his family and only he knows, and how he feels today. And,
all right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Well, let's wait word from him.
Right.
But anyway, wonderfully stated, Mimi.
Some Jewish chicken soup going to him would be really great. Sorry.
Absolutely. Mixed with
No.
some, indigenous spices. Um, Ruth,
And
and
quick,
then Hetty, and then
quick
Julie.
reminder, no swearing in English.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. Sorry about that.
And
Go ahead,
all
Ruth.
fine.
Oh,
Ruth.
okay. So first of all, in our joy about Leonard, we really have to give ourselves credit. This show that we have, or this webinar that Harvey does, and it was the first time in my life that I had the White House on speed dial. And the other thing is that I kind of laugh about this. I just thought about how my brother has, football jerseys in frames. And I was thinking I should put my Julian Assange sweatshirt in a frame because,
Right.
we did it, guys. And so the other thing I wanted to say to Tatanka and anybody else who may have contact with Leonard, I'm sure people will think about this, but when I was in medical school, I lived on the Zuni reservation and with the Indian Health Service. And I hope that he can get physical therapy. He's been cooped up. And Indian Health Service is a good medical group. So, I hope that in the joy that they also attend to that, check his protein levels, etc. So that was one thing. The second thing is, Harvey, I think the world of you, both academically as well as being a Pied Piper and a great leader for years. And this thing is now in its 4th year. However, I have to disagree with you on The Apprentice. And what I disagree with is I think they really gave Trump a pass. I mean, there was only Roy Cohn, that part was great, and how Roy Cohn, influenced him, and the actor was great. But, they only gave a very passing reference to his redlining. They only gave a very passive reference, like one sentence about his stiffing his workers who built his casinos and stuff like that. So, I think he got a pass on that, even though you're right, the acting was good.
Right.
And the last thing I wanted to say is, I, along with, 250,000 other people, unsubscribed from the Washington Post when Bezos pulled his little deal. And then I heard Marty Barron, who was a previous editor, get on and say, oh, if you all keep, you need to resubscribe, because if you don't give the Washington Post money, then they won't be able to do their reporting. Well, guess what? F the Washington Post. I'm sure the people that are knowledgeable on this webinar know that the Contrarian has come out. And that's Jennifer Rubin and Norm Eisen, and they have all kinds of really good progressive writers. So everybody check that out. You can do a free subscription or a paid subscription, and it's a way of giving the finger to the Washington Post and Jeff Bezos. So thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. And we can discuss the Apprentice. I have to say, I was so blown away by the portrayal of Roy Cohn that I have never seen a more effective portrayal of an absolute psychic monster than what Jeremy, what's his name, did in The Apprentice. And Kat Kramer's on with us. She's the daughter of a truly great movie maker, Stanley Kramer, and she's a member of the Academy. So, anyway, everybody take your Ruth's opinion. It's very interesting. I more or less agree, but I was just completely the only one character have I ever seen in a movie approached Roy Cohn in the movie The Apprentice, and that was the bad guy in the movie called Rob Roy, where Liam Neeson played Rob Roy. That was a pretty amazing portrayal. Anyway, we'll go on with that later on. Thank you, Ruth. Hetty Tripp, you're up. You're not far from Leonard. You're in Minnesota there. What's the latest?
Well, it's minus 23 degrees right now. It's going to go down to minus 29 by tomorrow morning. So But it'll get warmer. It'll get like 3 degrees and everybody be running around. But yeah, I'm calling from Minnesota, but my indigenous foremothers are from Asia. And what I wanted to share with all of you today, Javi, was that there is a movement amongst progressive, BIPOC, and women of color in terms of really focusing on self-care for the next 4 years, of really touching into what does rest mean. And I think that's really important for every one of us. Rest will mean different things for different people. But for me, it's an artful pause. I'm a poet and writer as well. A pause between things that need to be done and also resting. And resting is letting my body rest in writing, drawing, reading, meditating, and thinking. Basically letting my mind expand and my spirit dance. So I just wanted to share that with everybody. Because that's really important that we take care of ourselves. You especially, Javi, I've seen how you've gone through a lot of things. And by the way, I do have a titanium hip now, so we can share that.
Well, I have two. I broke my hip 5 years ago. They put in a new hip 5 years ago, and I broke it a year ago. So now I have two in the same. But congratulations, Hetty. You and I can get. Do you think, Hetty, if you and I stood side by side, that our hips would go like that, and we wouldn't be able to get apart? Anyway,
A lot of hippie jokes. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We're hippies. Hetty, and by the way, for any of you who's interested, Hetty and I met each other on some island of
Samosir.
Samosir in Indonesia about 50 years ago, right? It was in
Yeah.
1976.
1976.
There we go. And Hetty, you don't look a day older than when I met you.
Yeah, right.
Okay, everybody, this is fabulous. Just so enjoyable. Put your hands up because we're only going to go as long as people want to talk. You know, that we had an agenda, but obviously it's a whole new world here. So let's make the most of it. But if you want to say something, put up your hand, please. And then once there are no more hands, we're going to just walk off and enjoy all this. Julie Weiner from New York. Great to see you, Julie. Marcy Bielma, also, you've been putting in some great comments. If you want to raise your hand and actually speak, we'd love to have you join us. Julie, go ahead. Oh, no, I thought I had you unmuted. Sorry. Let's go here. There, up. It's the most frustrating, the only frustrating. There we go.
Unmute.
Yeah, please. Go for it. I think you got to unmute yourself now, Julie.
There we go. Now it's
Okay,
unmuted.
go ahead.
Okay,
Go
I
ahead.
had to do it a few times. So I hate monster movies and horror movies. Harvey, are you sure I can handle The Apprentice?
No, I'm not. I mean, I was sick for days after seeing The Apprentice.
God.
It's just an abomination. But what can I tell you? I really hope the guy wins the Academy Award who played Roy Cohn. But it was astounding. But go ahead.
Thank you. Maybe it'll help with preparing for dealing with the daily nausea of the Trump administration. I don't know.
I think it's all changed now.
I know this
I
is
think that the
wonderful,
killing
isn't
of
it?
Leonard Peltier has
It really is.
completely preempted the horrible vibe, frankly.
It really has. It's a wonderful day. So I wanted to mention that we are still dealing with a horror in New York State. And I really want to ask anybody else on the call who's in New York, help. We're losing the right to vote on verifiable ballots. There are now 5 counties that are starting to put money down, 4 actually, that have put money down for the Express Vote Excel, which has miscounted votes in a number of elections in other states. Common Cause and the Black Institute are still in court trying to reverse the decision to certify them, but there's millions of dollars already on the counter for ES&S to substitute unverifiable ballot summary cards and touch screens for our current hand-marked paper ballots. So please work with us, Citizens for Voting Integrity New York, Citizens Voting NY, and we really need help. We've got to reach out to all the legislators in Nassau, Suffolk, Erie, Monroe County has already put millions down, are ready to spend their millions. It's all, the funds are already allocated. So if that lawsuit is defeated, if that lawsuit is not, it doesn't succeed, a very substantial proportion of New Yorkers, Buffalo, Albany region, half of Long Island is going to be voting on unverifiable ballots. Of course, a lot of New Jersey already is. They're already in use across most of New Jersey. Anyway, give us a hand, New Yorkers, please. Help us reach out to all the legislators in all those counties and help us reach out and pressure the assembly, which we've got, for some reason, I can give you some suspicions as to why. Latrice Walker, who chairs the Assembly Election Law Committee, has not allowed a vote on Viva NY, which is a bill that passed the Senate, but now legislators in the Senate are a bit demoralized about the fact that they can't get it through the Assembly. So,
all right,
it's really, we need your help, guys, please. The bill is Viva NY. You can look it up in the New York State Legislature, but it hasn't yet dropped for this year.
Thank you for that.
It will be dropped, but it hasn't yet. Thanks.
Marcy Bielma, thank you so much, Julie, for your report. Marcy Bielma, you had a hand?
I
Please?
just want to say good afternoon to everybody, and everybody should be proud of themselves for having supported the release of Leonard Peltier. I'm new to your group, but I'm happy to be among such wonderful people who've, have the good of the public good in mind. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Marcy, and it's great to meet you, and I hope you'll keep coming on the calls.
Thank you.
And we want to. I know you're a Southern Californian, an Angelino, so I think there's going to be a gathering tomorrow night in Venice. Let's see.
What time and where in Venice?
Well, I don't know actually. Somebody's going to have
Okay.
to post it. We'll have to keep our eyes open for that.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Nice to see you, Marcy.
And I'm an LSB member at KPFK, so.
Right.
See you all.
Well, I come at the LSB as if it was in fact LSD, which really really helps me get through the meetings. So I recommend it to you too. And then we have Tatanka here, who is the webmaster here, the pop master here for the LSB meetings. Does an incredible job. Okay, great. Daniela again, and Nicole again, and then Mike. And again, if you want to speak, we've been at this over an hour already, but it's a thrilling conversation. So please do. Go ahead, Daniela, then Nicole, then Mike.
Disappeared. Oh, here I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thinking of Jesse Jackson's idea that we should celebrate our victories, and also remembering what he said, keep hope alive. And my motto is keep hope alive in 2025.
There you go.
I remember that we also have the film Vigilantes Incorporated, which deserves an Academy Award for teaching us how easily it is to destroy votes. So everybody should watch that. And I'm thinking that Peter Thiel, who's one of the oligarchs backing Trump and a fascist, promoting fascist worldwide, he is the Leonard Cohen of our time. He's a gay man who hates gay people, just as Leonard Cohen did.
No, not Leonard Cohen.
Roy Cohen.
Roy Cohen.
They're very different. I know.
Yeah, we love Leonard
Hallelujah.
Cohen. Hallelujah.
Sorry for that. Roy Cohen, of course. And I'm just really upset that this man has so much power and so much money promoting fascism all over the world.
Yeah, it's really a nightmare. It's a nightmare.
Tremendous amount of self-hatred. That's what Roy Cohn had. So much self-hatred that he wanted to destroy everything that was good.
Yeah, that's why it's such a powerful performance. And that's why I'm hoping that he gets the Academy Award, which would really underscore it.
Hello? I can't finish with somebody else talking at the same time. It makes me crazy, please. I want to remind us that of something to celebrate. The ERA was, Biden said that he wanted to codify it and put it into the Constitution because we learned, and there's a wonderful letter in the Contrarian, which I've subscribed to, explaining how it was really passed by 38 states back in 1982. And finally, Biden, before he left, said that it belongs in the Constitution and that it is in there. And he celebrated it and said that it was real. So the ERA was kind of codified by Joe Biden before he left, the Equal Rights Amendment that we women have been fighting for forever. I'm 83, and birth control was still illegal just 3 years before I was born. And women only got the right to vote in my mother's lifetime. And women are again being totally, totally trounced around the world and put back and put down. And these white supremacist guys who are the oligarchs behind Trump, their wives are very much in the background. So that's important to remember.
Right.
And the other thing I want to mention that we learned yesterday on Progressive Democrats from patriotic Americans, patriotic millionaires is the name of the organization. The thing we have to really work on is that probably, if we still even have a vote, that Gretchen Whitmer will probably be the next one they put up to run for president. And she refused to to work for or vote for the minimum wage. And the two things we have to note is that the reason Harris and Biden, or Biden and Harris, lost the election is, number one, they refused to stop the genocide in Gaza. So a lot of young people who were so disgusted stayed at home and didn't vote because of that. And I know some, even though I tried to persuade them they had to vote, they refused. And some of them voted for the Green Party instead. And the other thing we have to remember is that the other reason we lost is that the MAGA people are really a bunch of pitiable, uneducated people who work 2 jobs a day at $7.50 an hour to survive. That's what created the MAGA movement. And as Bernie has been preaching forever, we have to pass the minimum wage up to at least $14 an hour, because $7.50 an hour is not enough to live on. It only gets you $20,000 a year, which is starvation wages. And those MAGA people, we should have some heart for them. The reason they're so crazy and falling for lies is they're starving. There were people put out of their jobs by technology, blue collar workers, and they're starving and working 2 jobs a day, many of them, to just try to eat. They can hardly survive on $7.50 an hour, and their jobs have been taken by technology. So that's a very important thing for us to remember, that we have to work on passing the minimum wage, as Bernie's always preaching. And we really need to think about telling Gretchen Whitmer that she has to pass. We should be writing to her, according to Patriotic Millionaires, to get her to the vote on the minimum wage, because she'll probably be running for president by the Democrats next time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Danielle. Very good points. We really appreciate it. We're getting near the end here. Nicole, Mike, and Mickey, and then Myra, and then Deb. Okay, go ahead, Nicole. Oh, you're muted. Sorry. Yeah.
Yes, hi, thank you. I'm sorry to be bringing some sobering news. I heard this morning on NPR that Trump is planning to go even after some 50 congressional aides who participate in his prosecution. So Patel must not be confirmed. We have to get back to work by tomorrow because it's easier to make an appointment with the senators, because we can do it online. We just have to write an email to the people, the scheduler, and get a few people together on the computer, and they will allow us to meet with the congressional aide for our senators.
Okay, Nicole, thank you. You're always very on point. Appreciate your comments. Like so many, like everybody else here on these calls. Mike, Mickey, Myla, and Deb.
Me?
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Well, okay, I just want to add a footnote to Julie's on the express vote machines for those New Yorkers trying to fight that. Uh, those machines are almost an oxymoron. It takes 3 to 4 times as much time to vote on that machine as it does on a paper ballot. We had them in my county in Arizona, and I was a poll worker. The only advantage to them is they have an audio component for foreign languages or illiterate or blind people. But if you try to get everybody to vote on them, like we had to do, because I'm convinced it was a seal op by Eli Crane, our MAGA representatives. But when we got there that morning, the printers were only printing one side of a two-sided ballot. So we had to put everybody on these god-awful slow machines. So unless you want exponentially longer lines in New York, follow Julie's advice like that. Thank you.
Mike, thank you. That was very interesting. Mickey, Myla, Deb, and Mike Hersh. Mickey, go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, I just wanted to remind you from my first question, when are we going to hear about people we can start to support to take spots away in the House and in the Senate? Like we were told, vote for the 2 senators from Georgia.
Hey,
and
Mickey,
all of the-
Mickey, I got to stop you here. This is a nonprofit, nonpartisan Zoom. So we will not
okay,
be,
fine,
yeah, so if you have
okay.
another follow-up, that'd be great.
Okay, and the person that talked about the express vote information, could that be dropped, please, into the chat? So often we can't take notes that fast when they're speaking, and I don't even know what to. I live in New York. I have no idea what she's talking about.
Well,
Never
Mickey,
heard about it.
You should be in touch with Julie. Julie's a fabulous activist. Put your contacts in the chat. I'm sure Julie would be glad to get a hold of you. And
Great.
she's very, very knowledgeable. Okay.
Yep. And the last thing I wanted to mention is what was coming up repeatedly is the fact that we don't really know now how many people are going to get taken off the ballots, because you can just go to the Board of Elections and take the names and challenge that those people don't live in New York. And that's something we all, PDA, I don't care how many of us, we have to start doing that to change that. You can't, with absolutely anybody, can just go ahead and challenge. And if I'm getting the numbers wrong, I'm sorry, but I think it's 800,000 removed in Texas and a huge number in Georgia. And I know for sure my neighbors in Florida complained bitterly that people went into the Board of Elections and they looked for Jewish names because they knew that they were voting Democratic, and they challenged them.
Right.
So, you can win by a thread when you do all these things so illegally and nobody pays attention.
Right. Well, Greg Powell's film, Vigilantes Inc., really does a great job of that. And Greg showed 24 years ago, 25, how the disenfranchisement in Florida was responsible for George W. Bush getting in the White House. Thank you so much for that. Myla, Deb, and Mike. Go ahead, Myla.
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to say, I'm a little distracted by the screen share, but I wanted to say that Lydia Ponce announced in the chat that the celebration for Leonard's release has been moved to Wednesday at the end of the Venice Pier. People will gather at 6:30 p.m. and the prayers are scheduled to begin at 7 p.m. And for those of you who live anywhere in Southern California, come to Venice, California, and there should be a wonderful time to celebrate Lennon's release.
Right. And we're talking about Venice, California, not Venice, Italy. Is that right?
I believe so.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you, Myra. Excellent information. Deb, Mike, and Bob Rome. Go ahead, Deb.
Hi. I very rarely talk at these things, but I just wanted to put in my 2 cents how thrilled I am about Leonard. I've been advocating for his release for a long time. I'm a longtime activist going back to against the Vietnam War, and I get tired of having to do the same things. But I'm grateful for this particular group that meets. I think this is my favorite PDA meeting because you guys share so much good information. And just thank you. That's
Well,
it.
thank you. We appreciate it. You look much too young to have been involved in Vietnam War.
Oh no.
Didn't we meet at the March on Washington one year? Anyway, Deb, it's great to see you. Thank you, and thank you for your kind words. Much appreciated. Mike Hersh and
You're
then Bob,
welcome.
and then getting down to the end here. It's been an hour and a half, but if you want to pipe in, and Marion Edie, it's great to see you. And we've had Lynn Cherry on. Lynn Cherry is one of the world's greatest authors of children's books. She wrote The Great Kapok Tree. She is a fabulous national treasure with her writing and her work. Hi, Lynn. How are you? Good to see you. And keep writing. Maybe you'll write a children's book about Leonard Peltier at some point. That would be interesting. Anyway, go ahead, Mike Hersh, Bob Rome, and Lynn, if you want to pipe up, Marion, please do.
Thanks, Sluggo. And as you always say, we have the longest attention span of any Zoom meeting. And for anybody who still has some attention left, there's a rebroadcast of an event that they're billing as an alternative inauguration. I put the information, including the link, in the chat about how to honor the Martin Luther King holiday with an alternative inauguration. And I understand that it was a wonderful event and they're rebroadcasting it in about 8 minutes. So when we wrap up here, people can bounce over there.
Will you post the link in the chat, Mike?
I will. It's Kings and Breaking Silence, all one word, .org.
Fantastic.
There it is.
There you go. King. Oh,
Thank you. Yep.
Yes. Well, we'll defer to them. Bob, you'll be the last unless anybody really wants to pipe up. Thank you for that, Mike. Thank you, Steve Caruso, for engineering today. It's been wonderful. This is I have to say, in the 5 years, almost 5 years we've been doing this, this is certainly the happiest session that we've had. And we've certainly worked for this for a long time. So let's just celebrate. Bob, go ahead.
I'm Bob Ream. I do the calendar in the Columbus Free Press, Columbus, Ohio. And I put 8,000 events in the calendar, 96 of which have been this event. I'm finally glad to be able to actually attend an event right now.
Well, it's great to have you on, Bob. And thank you for putting us in the calendar. We greatly appreciate it. So what we're going to do now is segue over. Mike has given us the next place to go. Remembering this is also, the idea of a Martin Luther King holiday, it was a victory in itself. It's a very big deal. Stevie Wonder worked for years to get it done, and he did. And so now will we also be Leonard Peltier Day, for God's sakes. Dr. King and Leonard Peltier on the same day in the same breath, vastly overshadowing any other events which will go unmentioned that occurred today. So nothing else happened today except Martin Luther King and Leonard Peltier. All other news is petty, small change. Everybody, this has been wonderful. 3:24 in California. We're going to sign off. Really wonderful to see you all. Really wonderful to be able to celebrate this. Mimi, thanks for your beautiful poetry. Everybody for your kind and wonderful words. And we'll be back next week in a whole new world. Okay? Everybody, we love you. And Leonard, knock yourself out, brother. Hug those grandchildren. Take care. We'll see you next week.
No noops.
Marcy Bielma, good to see you too. and everybody else that's